Hey, hey, hey. Oh my gosh. Welcome back, guys, to the Light Warriors Unleashed podcast, episode 13. And this is exciting because, whenever I record a podcast, whenever I actually teach anything, or when I'm aligning, programs, offerings, everything that I do, I drop into my heart and I ask the question, what is it that I need to speak about today? What is it that I need to serve the collective energy in today? What does this look like for me? What is needed at this time? How do I move this through? What does this look like? So today's topic, it was so funny. Literally, I'm just sitting here about to hit record and I dropped into the space because I kind of knew a little bit about where I was going to lead into. I've been seeing a lot of like posts these days about people really owning who they are, and really stepping into past life ownership in this present life, like lives when they were witches, lives when they used alchemy, lives when they were warriors, lives when they literally were killed, at the stake or whatever it was for them. And I watched this narrative moving through the collective. So I knew I was going to kind of talk about that. But literally, the title of this podcast dropped in like a second ago before I hit go. And it was like, what's the deal with past lives? Because this conversation I've been having a lot with a lot of people over the last few weeks for sure. And even last night, it was Easter dinner. So for those of you that are listening to this at a different day, it's in April that I'm recording this podcast, but it doesn't matter. Obviously, it's pertinent to you wherever you land and whatever day you listen to this. But we were literally at dinner, and one of the girls at dinner was talking about something, about when she was a child, she used to speak with this slang. And her parents were like, where'd you even get this from? Right. And I said, at the time, it was probably a past life that and probably most likely the life right before this life in her world. Because what happens is when we birth and when we literally come into our earth experience, we remember all of the things. We remember dropping into our bodies. We remember our mission on earth. We remember all of our past lives. We remember our spiritual connection. But we drop into this earth experience, not being able to talk and obviously not being able to express that. And I've spoke about this before, but we see children, especially those that are between the ages of like 0 to 12 months, 18 months even in there, they're actively looking at things. They actively see spirits. They actively talk to spirits telepathically. And if we can learn as humans to talk to our kids telepathically and really be in tune with that, we can communicate with them at those ages. We can honor that. We can get them to continue to step into that. And our skill set and talents come out at younger ages like that. And as parents, our job is to help that child cultivate that. But most of us are asleep, right? Most of us are not paying attention. Most of us are in the hustle of energy. Most of us are distracted. And I'm not saying that as a jab to anybody at all in this world. We all go through our own experiences. And if you have teenage kids or kids in their 20s right now and you're listening to this going, I wish I would have, that's not what the intention is of me saying this out loud. Now you can help cultivate your grandkids. Right now, if you have that knowledge, you can help educate them. And those grandbabies are going to choose not just their parents, but also their grandparents potentially to help serve them in this movement of collective of energy and helping them really hone in on these spiritual gifts to get activated quicker, to be able to step into their missions faster, because now you have a next level of knowledge, right? But we were talking about this and about this past life that she was probably tapped into her life right before this, where she was an American with this accent that she naturally spoke all the time. So she pulled that into this life, right? And we were joking around. I was like, you should go figure out who you were and see if you can get your passport back. And it was just like a funny thing to be able to step into that space. But just looking at that and honoring that and feeling that and understanding that. So let me go back to the beginning of what this actually means. So for some of you guys that are not versed in past lives, some of you that have no clue that this is a thing, let me bring you back into the beginning. So we are a soul incarnated on earth at this time. We have had multiple incarnations. Some of us have been on this earth multiple, like hundreds and hundreds of times, going through experiences. Some of us only incarnate at certain periods of time. There's some souls right now on the earth right now who have never ever incarnated before ever. but they are incarnated right now on earth because the blueprint of the earth is off, and we need to shift vibrational alignment to be able to bring back the purity of light onto the earth. Because as we're seeing in the narratives happening and moving through the world right now, there is a lot of shit going on, a lot of shadow, a lot of control, a lot of power hungry people looking to control others. They've always been here, but they didn't need to be as dominant as they are now because they slid around under the surface doing their things and hiding the things that they were doing. And all of a sudden, when people started awakening, now I had my first spiritual awakening, like consciously 14 years ago, where I started actually doing spiritual work on purpose, not based on my intuition in the past, not based on the things that I did in the past, but literally consciously in awareness of it. There's a lot of people out there that have been doing this a long time. And there's a lot of you guys out there that are just started this process, just started thinking about this, just started awakening into this, just started really leaning into this, right? So each of us has our own pathway. But there was a break a couple years ago, before this whole COVID thing happened. I would say about 5 years ago, that people started really kind of awakening. And the cabal, the elite, the whatever the fuck you want to call them, all of the things started literally, I wouldn't say they got scared, but they started ramping up their narrative. This was always in the pathway. We knew as souls jumping into these bodies that this was what was happening on earth. We saw the narrative, we knew what was going to go down. And those of us that are here to reinstate the blueprint, that are the light workers, the light warriors, the star seeds, are here on earth to shift that narrative, to bring the earth back into alignment, to bring heaven back on earth. That's what we're here to do. Will it ever be done in the time that, I'm still in this body? I don't know. I don't know if it'll ever get to that point that we have, literally tipped the scale. I know that we're making strides. I know that it's one person after one person after one person. I know that it's a collective of energies all over the world shifting this narrative. But it was about 5 years ago that these guys got a bit scared with what was happening with this awakening and this movement of light, that they started to ramp up their energy. And then we saw it happen in, March of 2020. All of it started collapsing around. We're seeing it happen dominantly now with all of the narratives moving through the earth. And a lot of us, especially if you're listening to this podcast, are meant to combat that energy. Now, not all of us are supposed to be on the front line as trailblazers, speaking about it, moving it through and enabling it. For a long time, I was in the back end, light by light, speaking that truth. And I would drop here and there, but there was trailblazers out there pushing the line. Like they were literally speaking about it, moving about it, in your face about it, which was exactly what they were meant to do. I was a behind the scenes kind of person. And some of you were a behind the scenes kind of person with me. Some of you didn't even realize or recognize the fact that that was a thing, that was something that you were doing automatically already, seeking truth, speaking truth, helping your family see truth, and all that narrative that was going on. But we're at a pivotal point right now in this collective of energy moving through, that it is time to step in fully into our light, because our light creates a ripple effect in the world. And when you chose to come in and incarnate, and you chose to be here, and if you have found this podcast and you're listening to this podcast, you are meant to shine your light brighter. You would not be attracted or inclined to listen to a podcast called Light Warriors Unleashed if you weren't. You just wouldn't. You wouldn't be a guest on this podcast. You wouldn't be inclined to listen. You wouldn't understand this movement in the world. You just wouldn't. And maybe you're at the beginning and you're just curious, which is amazing. But I want you to really feel inside your body right now and understand that you have a pathway on earth. You've chosen this. And all of the past lives that you've had leading up to this has given you the skill set and training to be able to step into this space right now. So let me bring you back again, because obviously I digress. And I just so you guys know, in case you don't know me that well, I channel. So I literally step in with an objective, meaning this is what I want to speak about, and I go from there. I don't take notes. I don't have notes around me. I literally stream wholeheartedly into you this podcast in one shot, in one take, in one movement. Now, my podcast producer, who's amazing, will help with the audio part. If something needs to be edited, she'll do all that amazing work. but it's like one of those things that I just flow and I'm like, okay, that was supposed to come out right now for you. Now let me bring you guys back into past lives, okay? Into this experience. So we incarnate on this earth to learn things. Our soul wants to go through experiences. Our soul wants to learn and gather knowledge and information and experiences. And we do that through our experiences on earth. So a lot of us, have had multiple past lives. Now we have incarnated in that life with a certain purpose of learning. Sometimes our lives are cut short. They're very, very short. And this is sometimes hard for us to understand why some people pass over, why children are passing over quickly. Most of the time, if a child bursts into this earth and crosses over before the age of 7, that lesson was for the parents. And this is hard to feel and hear in this human experience because we have emotions here and we deal with emotions. And most of the people on earth don't understand what death actually is. It means that the soul has completed their journey on earth. And it doesn't make it easier for us to swallow this because of the fact that we love people. We love them. We adore them in our life. We like the physical connection of them. We love them in our world, especially ones that are super close and lovers. Like when we have people that pass that we're in relationships with, it's a hard one to swallow because that person has been ingrained in our energy for so long, right? So it's sometimes challenging to feel this as we move through this experience. It's hard on us as humans. And I am that person in your life that I have a hard time. I can be empathetic with you when people pass over, but I'm not the one that will console you. I'm not the one that you call, and I could hold space for you as you bawl your face off. I can do that, but I'm not the one that is that person for you. There's other people in the world that they get this. They're in it. They can feel your heart this way, and I can feel your heart too, but I understand from a higher level, the soul passed over because they're done and completed. Now, if people decide to take their own lives in this world, they are checking out of the experience. And if they haven't completed what they're here to do on earth, they're coming back into another body, into this space to do those exact same lessons again. And that's a hard thing to swallow sometimes when people leave the earth. They have the option. They have the option of moving through this experience, of finding help, of talking to people. But there's a lot of people out there that hold so much shame and that hold this energy inside of them that they don't want to, and they think the only way out is by checking out, when it's actually this exact moment of time is part of their evolution as a soul learning in this experience. And I know that this is a really deep and dark, triggering podcast that I'm stepping into right now. Apparently, this is what was supposed to come through. But I really want you to feel inside of your heart what the truth is for you. And I always encourage you guys to do this. I always encourage everybody to do this. Your truth is your truth, right? And feeling through this truth is an imperative thing. But we really are here on earth for an experience to learn things. We have a purpose here on earth. We have a ripple effect to make in the world. And each of us is different. And each of us has a different integrity to that. And each of us has a different mission to that. And each of us has a different vibration to that. All of it is different for each of us. Now, sometimes our purposes weave, right? Sometimes your purpose and my purpose seem to be parallel and in alignment. And it can be for certain periods of time. And we may weave together for certain distances and then come apart for other things, right? And some of our purposes are in partnership or in joint ventures or in doing collaborations together. This podcast is a collaboration of an energy unit moving through the world, the guests coming on to serve in the collective. And yeah, it gets them exposure. And yes, it gets their brand exposure. And yes, that they can come in and speak truth on this podcast, but it's also to serve in the collaboration energy to move through, right? But this purpose on earth right here, right now, is this integrity inside of you. And you have seen this whisper moving through. You have seen this collective of energy moving through. You have seen this dynamic moving through in your world in some way, shape, or form. You are hearing it now moving through the collective. And maybe you didn't recognize it as that. But if we get back into past lives, all the lives before this life that you're in right now, you have gathered information, knowledge, and tools. So let me tell you about a couple things. Past life regression. So a couple of things I really want you to understand and know, and this is going to be way out there. This thing I'm about to say to you guys is going to be way out there, but this is actually truth. And as you grow and evolve as a soul, you can feel this, and maybe it won't be for about 10 years that you may honor this, which is totally okay. Because when I thought about this the first time that this dropped into my conscious awareness, I was like, are you sure? Is that actually a possibility? But if you really think about quantum energy, and if you really think about time and the space of time, Earth is the only place in the whole entire dimensional world where we actually have a linear time frame. Somebody created us in a box of a 24-hour span in a day. And then they created 365 days a year, which revolves around the moon and the sun. And we can see that consistency where the planets align and all of this stuff. You know, we've watched the calendar move where the moon will be on one side for part of the year and then the other side, and then it goes back to the other side. And obviously, I'm not an astrologer, and nor do I ever claim to be. But we have a rhythm of time. Earth is the only space that is honored. There's other dimensions. There's other planets. There's other places. There's other timelines that are happening at the exact same time. And technically, all of our past lives are happening, and all of our future lives are happening simultaneously as one. And what do I mean by that? I mean that we can actually, if we drop into this, we can actually go back to our past life that is actually happening in real time right now in this linear dynamic. And that might baffle your brain a little bit, going, what? So all of the lives you've ever lived, past and present, are happening in real time right now, exactly in this moment of time that you're here on Earth, listening to this podcast. And that, like, for our pragmatic brain and our physics brain and all of the other 3D matrix energy that we've been taught on this Earth experience, you're like, no, that can't be true. But it actually is. So when they say past life regression, meaning going back into your past life, you're just literally tapping into a life that is happening right now. Now, maybe it's in the 1600s that it's happening. And remember, we are the only planet that has linear time. So technically the 1600s is in still alignment with the 2023 year. And you might be like, what the fuck? I know, it's a fucking mind fuck. And no, I'm not high. And if you actually went and smoked some really high THC marijuana, you may actually feel that to be truth, because in that collective of energy, you can tap into that higher level of conscious awareness when you're smoking that. We can also do it through meditation, but a lot of us don't do that, right? So I wanted to bring that forth in conversation because I think it's a unleashed conversation to have. And I'll let you sit with that for right now. Let that play out over here. But when we talk about past life regression, this is almost a hypnotic state that you go into, guided by a practitioner who's trained on how to do this. And you set an intention, and you drop into a life or lives that are representative to the intention. So let's just say the first time I ever did a past life regression, maybe it was about 10 years ago. And the intention that we set at the time was messages I needed to know now that were relevant for this life experience I was dealing with now. So I had no pulse point on this, guys. Like, I had no idea what was about to happen to me. I had no clue. All I knew at the time was I was like, I think I need to do that. I didn't really know what it was. I didn't know what it meant. And I was working with my spiritual mentor at the time. So like, we were doing all these different kinds of, dynamics, practicalities. Like every month I had messages from my guides channeled and writing. Like, I literally still have a stack binder. Speaking of which, that's back in Canada that I need to grab. And I'm like, oh wait, note to self, we need to pick that up and get that into my field and awareness again. But like, I had this binder stack. So when I went into like this past life regression, I really didn't know. So she drops you, or whoever, the practitioner, drops you into this meditative hypnotic state. And all of a sudden you wake up, quote unquote, in a past life, wherever that is. Now, some of us have had very traumatic lives. So in this experience of past life regression, you can pull yourself out of your body in that life and watch as a bystander. Sometimes we drop into the body in that past life and we can feel it. So if you are open to that and you are available for that, you go right back into that body form in that life. So I have a couple cool things I want to tell you about. So the first life that I dropped back into, I was a tiger. So I never done this before. I had I had no pulse point on it, right? No experience, nobody told me anything about anything. And she's like, can you look down at your feet? And that's the first thing you need to do to ground, right? You have got to ground. So we've got to go figure out, what are you wearing on your feet? What does it look like? Who are you? Right? So I look down and she goes, what do you see? And I go, I see paws. And she literally was like, what kind of paws? And I was like, tiger. And then all of a sudden I got into the body of the tiger and I was running through the jungle. Now I could see and feel the paws in my hands turned into paws. I could feel my heartbeat racing. And I was literally panting, racing through the jungle. And what happened in that life was literally there was an earthquake. And my family, my whatever partner, my female partner, I was a male tiger at the time, and my children, my cubs, were on the other side. Literally, we had been separated. And there was no way I could get to them because the gap was too big and I couldn't jump. But it was the coolest experience ever. Now we understand where my feline connection comes from. Now I get and understand why I can talk to tigers at the zoos when I used to see them. Now I can understand why animals like felines are attracted to me. They feel safe with me. They come into my field of awareness because I used to be one. I used to live that life. Now I can understand my connection into this jungle. And it was really funny when we were climbing the mountain. So if you don't know, I last week just literally climbed the biggest the biggest waterfall in Costa Rica. It was a 600-foot climb. It was super steep, the craziest experience physically that I've been through ever in my whole life. Panting and sweating and, oh my God, I fucking can't do this energy, right? And moving that through. But I said to my girlfriend, I said, I really want to see a jaguar. I actually really want to see one. I don't want to be in a fight with a jaguar, but I want to feel the energy of one in my field, around me in the safe precaution. And she's like, oh my God, are you kidding me? And she was so funny laughing at me. I go, no, and I would just transform into my tiger to be able to hold space there. So we were all safe. We weren't this edible meat, I would hold that energy in that space of time. And she's like, you're crazy. And I'm like, I am crazy. And I own my crazy. And this is my life, and this is what I do. And this is who I am. But I am all in for transmuting and transferring experiences. And so it's interesting that past life, we dropped into a couple other lives. I was I was like a teenage boy that died in a war, in a plane crash. I was a pilot and died by a head wound. I walked off a cliff with one of my other lives. Then what else? Oh yeah, my last life before this one, I was a prostitute, drug addict that died of an overdose in the 70s. So just so you guys know, I'm born in the 80s. So I went through that experience as well. And I have tapped into multiple past lives of mine. I used to be an Italian opera singer. I used to be a medicinal healer. I used to be a witch. I used to practice black magic. I've had multiple lives with two of my actual girlfriends in this life, and we've been sisters in multiple lives. So we are like soul sisters, witchy sisters in this life as well, still honoring all those lives, and all of us remember all those lives, which is really kind of cool. But past life regression, and one of the things, I am certified and trained in it. I took it a long time ago just for fun, and I don't really use this tool. It's not one of the tools I ever talk about or step into the space of. If my clients in one-to-one work ever needed it, we could access that and we could go into that as an asset, right? But I don't really talk about it a lot. But one of the sessions that I have done, which was really, really a cool session, one of the ladies was suffering, literally suffering. And I use that word on purpose because it was physically painful for her to be in her body in this life. She had MS and a very onset, really, really out there, extreme case of MS. And she wanted to go back into a past life to see where it started. because she knew it wasn't this life, and she knew it wasn't hers in this life, which is amazing to know and feel and be so in tune. And some of you may be thinking, oh my God, but the pain in our body is an emotion moving through us, and it's an unhealed wound in our body. So when we are in pain, it's something that has to move through, right? And it may not be this life. So it wasn't this life for her. We dropped back into the life where it was initiated, and she dropped back into the body of this very, very ill man that she was back in a couple lifetimes ago. And that pain moved through all the lives until this one. We healed it, cleared it there, brought forth the understanding, and then asked what was needed in this life to move it through. And we got connected to the person that needed to help her. We got connected to the medicinal homeopathics that needed to help her. And she's doing so much better in this life. And sometimes that baffles our brain to think about that. But I want to really nail this in on this podcast today, is that we are not working in linear time any longer. We are not these lemmings just on earth to have 9-to-5 jobs, to do Groundhog Day every single day, and to not live and be an experience. We are awakening to this beautiful, beautiful tapestry of life on earth right now. And we are seeing it in our connection to nature, in our connection to animals, in our connection to other people, in the communities we're working within, in the friendships we desire to have, in our love relationships. We're seeing it heighten in the work that we do, and the way we speak truth into the world, and how we step into our power. We're seeing it heighten. And all of our past lives that we have lived throughout these lifetimes are key dynamics and pulse points for giving us the knowledge and information and experience we need to fully step in and own our truth right here, right now. And a lot of us are pulling from these lives. Like, I'm teaching an alchemy program literally this month in connection with occultism and hermetic philosophies and owning your white magic, and pulling from the times that I was a witch using magic in the world, the times where I was the wizard using alchemy, the times where I used sacred geometry to step into the space, and it's coming back. A lot of you guys who are being drawn to gardening and homeopathics and creating medicinal, medicine through the earth experience, a lot of you guys that are inclined to essential oils and using that in your health practices, using herbs to be able to support the body, using literally the earth to ground and heal you, and moving through that energetic field, that is past life experiences. The times where you used to garden and be farmers, the times where you literally ate off your own land, right? Processed foods are not something that is vibrating through our bodies anymore as you ascend. You cannot eat it, right? You will be tired, drained, create illness in the body. You will need more naps. You will not have the energy you need, because we cannot sustain in the purity of our energetic form. And our past lives are showing up right now to give us the tools that we need to step in. Some of you guys knew certain things at young ages. Like, if we look at Tiger Woods right now, how the fuck did Tiger Woods know how to golf at the age of 2? Because he knew how to golf from past lives, right? And he stepped into his body mechanics, and his parents saw that in him. So they pulled it out of him and got him into that alignment. Some of you guys have this already. You saw the signs as you were young. You saw the videos. Your mom told you, oh my God, when you were young, you used to do this. So we honed in on it. Very aware parents saw it, were present in life. So right now in your space, you have children in your world, grandchildren in your world, children to come in your world, and you're going to start to see this pulse through. Their past lives are going to show up. Your job as the guide is to help them move through that quicker, is to activate them faster, is to amplify that light in the world quicker, because all of us, our past lives have brought us to this exact moment of time. We needed those assets to execute in this timeline right now. Right now, we need the assets, right? My ability to channel, to be able to tap in, to be able to channel ascended masters, to be able to bring them into my field, to serve the collective. My light warrior is illuminating lights. That's my job. My job as a soul mission activator is to move this through. But half the time I'm like, I don't even know where that information came from, right? because of the fact that it's not me in this world right now. It's not this human that gets it. It's my ability to tap in. It's my ability to see from the past. It's my ability to pull the talents from the past and bring them into this field right now. So for those of you that are new to this, and for those of you that are like, I don't fucking know anything about past lives, how you can do this is by dropping in. If you were to open up your heart and really get present. So the first thing about this human experience is the elite and shadow energy do not want you to be present, because if you are present in your life, you then can hear your intuition. You then can be aware. You then can connect to other people and into nature, which then amplifies your light even more and your intuition. They don't want that. So they create every single distraction that they can create. Porn, instant gratification on our phones, all of the mechanisms like the Wii's and the Nintendos and all of that, those take us out of our body and into an experience so we cannot hear our intuition. Television, Netflix. Now, guys, I watch Netflix. I watch my fair share of TV sometimes, or I love movies, but there's weeks sometimes on end that I will never turn the TV on. Now, granted, I'm always reading because that is also something that fuels me. But there's times where I have to literally tap in and be so present in my body because of the experiences I'm going through, because of my shifts, because of my lessons, but also too, because I need to be able to hear or hold energy for certain programs that I'm offering, right? So the more present we get, the more we can hear ourselves, the more we can listen, the more we can feel out. Now you can drop into your body easily. Breathe. Breathing is one of the key pieces for grounding. Breathing, getting outside, and just allowing yourself to be in your body. Feel your cells, feel your blood moving through your body. Tap your fingers together, feel yourself swallow, right? So present. When you breathe in, imagine breathing in a certain energy and feeling it move through your nasal passage all the way down into your lungs. That will get you present. And then opening up your heart. So the heart chakra, right? This center of our being is where our soul resides, our mission right here, our soul, our sacred heart temple, our connection right here into ourselves. And if you just close your eyes and you imagine it opening, so imagine just literally opening up your heart in whatever way that shows up for you today. So each of us is different in the way that that means something for us. So imagine opening up your heart, and now you have access to your soul. You have access to your Akashic records. You have access to everything right here inside of your heart. So if you ask yourself once your heart is open, whatever it is that you desire to know. So like, let's just say it's like, what was my last past life? And if you allow yourself to hear yourself, maybe not in a voice, but you may get a vision of it. You may feel something in your body moving through. You may just know what it is, and a random thought will drop in. It's not random, it's aligned. If you are actually in purity of this and you start to trust yourself, you'll get the answer. What is a past life that is really important for me to know right now for my soul's mission on earth? What is a past life? Like, what is information from a past life that I need right now to get over this challenge that I'm in? And thank you for that, because there's something that's been running through my field right now that I can't seem to bust open. And guess what I'm going to be doing today? Dropping into that past life to go find it. And I can do that, right? I can move that through easily because I do this often. So for you, you may have to practice this. But some of the key things, just like I've been saying forever, is trusting the answer dropping in. And it may not make sense at first, and you may have to work within it, and may have to journal about it, and you may have to tap in more and more to go get those answers. But everything is inside of his heart. And then some people are like, well, what about the third eye? Well, the third eye is where we connect to other dimensions, is where we connect to other beings, right? It's where we do the channeling from, and our mediumship is coming through this third eye and the crown, right? These top two levels are like the highest vibration to connect into other dimensions, right? Because we actually have more chakras that move up. There's not just the 7 that we're taught. There's higher ones and lower ones that go into the earth. So it's interesting, guys. And I understand why this whole narrative of this podcast showed up today, because a lot of you are fighting, right? You're fighting right now. You're fighting the truth running through you. You're fighting inside of yourself the actual things that you need to do. You're fighting inside of yourself, and you're creating more blocks inside of you because you're not listening. You're not listening to your intuition. You're not listening to your pathway. You're not listening to your higher self. You're not listening. You're fighting against it, trying to be just a human and ignoring the signs. I'm sorry. You can't be just a human any longer in this experience. You are soul. You are a spiritual being having an experience here on earth. And within that comes a lot of things that we're learning through. Comes a lot of changes, a lot of dimensional changes, comes a lot of honesty, comes a lot of personal responsibility, which you've heard me talk about too. Right? And sometimes the experiences here on earth suck. They really suck. So I live and breathe this, guys. This is who I am. This is what I teach. This is how I operate. And a few weeks ago, I was going through an experience where like people stealing in this country is a big thing. And actually going in and breaking into people's homes is actually a thing here. And I've never had fear around any of it ever. Like I always felt safe. It didn't matter what that was. I also believe in manifestation, and the more energy we put onto something, the more we manifest it faster. And I believe that as well. But we were out of power. Like we literally had no internet, no cell service. We had actual power in the houses. Like we had air conditioners and stuff, but we didn't have internet or data. So I couldn't communicate with anybody. Now where I live, I'm kind of back, like by the river. Like I don't have a gate here. At the time there wasn't these things in the window, and these windows can pop open easily. But I made a decision to go walk up to the street to see if I could get data, because I was communicating with a girlfriend to say I'd come by tonight, and I didn't hear back from her because all of the phones went down. And I went out to the street and I was able to get internet over there just to send a message. But I got this really irky feeling that there was a lot of people creeping the street. I didn't feel safe. I came back to my house and I went, fuck. Like literally, I went, fuck. I feel like something's going to happen tonight. So I literally brought knives into my room, barely slept, as you can imagine. But why I tell you this today is because this is what I said to God. And I said, God, now I talk to God, I talk to the universe, I talk to spirit, whomever you choose to communicate with. I talk to everybody, divine timing, divineness, divine energy. But that night it was God. I said, God, I understand that my soul has chosen to have certain experiences in this life. And if this is one of them, I will honor it. I will honor it and I'll be present in it, and I will move through with my intuition through it if this is one of the experiences. But if it's not, and this is something that could change through a timeline, bring in the cavalry, people, bring in the protection, and I had guarded the energy up already up on the driveway, but I was bringing the protection right now. Because if this, I'm not meant to experience this, if this is not in the wheelhouse of what I chose as a soul to move through, get them the fuck out. Do not let them come into this field. Do not let this happen. And nothing happened. So I knew that experience wasn't meant for me at this time, at least. And sometimes the hardest experiences we go through, we've chosen them in advance. And that's really hard. Like I've already triggered people probably in this podcast, and I'll put a trigger warning in the show notes for this. But the hard part: rape, sexual assault, sexual abuse as children, battery, assault, murder, like families murdered. I used to have a client that her family was murdered, literally. All of those things are so hard. All of it: sex trafficking, child molestation, like all the things that are circulating through the world now that we're seeing rampantly, the school shootings, all of that, right? All of that, those are hard to swallow. And our soul has chosen a lot of those experiences, a lot to learn from, to move through, to breathe into, to help others move through. And this is the hard part about Earth. It really is, that this vibration is moving through. Now we are here on Earth now to shift this. We will always have duality because that's why we drop into this experience, right? We come to this Earth to have an experience, to see duality. If we didn't want duality, we would just stay in the other dimensions because they don't have it there. This is what Earth represents, but it's really dark right now, and we don't need it to be this way for our learning. So that's why we are here to shift this. So I know I went all over the place in this podcast today, but I think all of it intertwined and is needed at this time to pulse a vibration through the Earth, right? And if you have questions about past lives, just send me a DM, ask me, like whatever it is. If you are like, oh my God, I want to learn about my past lives and all that, you can reach out to me as well. We could do a session together. Akashic record work really works within this as well. If you don't want to do like an actual regression, we can learn more about past lives and what's right now moving through. I am creating an Akashic Records course. Past lives will be integrated in it as a certification through into level 2 of that program. And one day this year, I will get it up and running and move through. But I definitely procrastinate on paperwork. So just saying that out loud to myself. But here's what I want you and want to leave you with today is really feeling out, what are you here to do? And start listening to the whispers dropping in and start trusting yourself. A lot of us doubt it all the time. We don't make decisions. We're like, I don't know, I don't know, I don't know. Fuck the I don't know. It's time right now to drop into your heart every day and take aligned action through your heart. Stop wasting time. Stop wasting time. And let's go make this happen. And again, like I always say, if you guys feel this, please share it out. You know, this podcast gets into hands of other people because of people like you. And this message is moving through the collective of energy really, really intensely right now. And more people need to hear it, feel it, see it, listen to it. So if you feel this, help me spread the word, help me share it out and move it through. And I'm just so grateful that I get to share with you here and always moving through the collective of energy. And I'm just so grateful to be here with you right now on Earth. Go enjoy the day, and I'll see you guys again soon.